Good evening, everyone. We want to welcome all of you once again. While you're finished eating, we're going to go ahead and get started with the program. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I know there are some really awesome parties going on in New Orleans. I understand Bergman Street's really kind of rocking the Halloween thing, but I think you made a good choice. At the very least, you made a dignified choice. So we're pleased to have you here. As I was preparing for this evening, I started wondering, just when did the idea of a Hall of Fame begin? And so, of course, I turned to Wikipedia and found that the first Hall of Fame in this country was created by the Bronx Community College to honor great Americans like Eli Whitney, Alexander Graham Bell. But this was inspired by a Ruhmeshalle Hall, a German Hall of Fame in Munich, which was inspired by the very first Hall of Fame ever in 1807 in Walhalla, Germany, which was to honor politicians, sovereigns, scientists, and artists of the German tongue. In this country, I always think of sports and music when I think of a Hall of Fame. But indeed, there are halls of fame for every imaginable topic: burlesque, cowboys, candy, cartoonists, robots, science fiction. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, including industries like insurance and now like continuing care. So I think it's very fitting that the Continuing Care Hall of Fame has been established, and maybe even is overdue. But it provides us an opportunity to recognize the leaders who have made broad, encompassing, and lasting contributions to our industry. Earlier today, I was watching CBS Sunday Morning, one of my favorite shows. And I don't know if any of you saw it this morning, but they had a group of journalism interns, and only 2 of those interns had ever heard of Charles Kuralt. Like, how can that be? So I think the other thing that's really important about this Hall of Fame is it gives us an opportunity to preserve the history of the important work that we do, so that hopefully these names of the greats in our industry won't be lost for the new group of people that are entering this field. So during the next 55 minutes, because as you've heard, AVS on a very strict schedule, so it'll be 55 minutes, we'll be honoring 4 visionaries from our field: Maria Dwight, Dr. Richard Ice, Dr. Laverne Joseph, and Reverend Paul White. You'll learn more about their lifetime achievements from individuals who know or knew them and who are themselves just delighted to be able to reflect on our honorees' accomplishments. We'll conclude the program with comments from a national luminary, well known to all of us, Larry Minix, the retired CEO of Leading Age. We hope that all of you will stay and join us for the dessert bar and continued conversation after the program, which will conclude at precisely 8:50 p.m. We'll begin our festivities with a video comments from Steve Fleming, who is the incoming chair of Leading Age and who was unable to join us in person this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Fleming, President and CEO of the Wellspring Group, based in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm also board chair-elect of Leading Age, an association that represents nonprofit aging services providers, many of whom are continuing care or life plan communities. Our mission is to be the trusted voice for aging, and we strive to realize an America free from ageism. I'm sorry that I'm unable to be with you in person tonight to celebrate the class of 2017 Continuing Care Hall of Fame inductees. However, I want to take a moment now to recognize the incredible contributions of 4 pioneers in this field. Maria Dwight is a champion for the rights of older adults in this country. Her lifelong passion for improving the aging experience is second to none, and she successfully brought forth this discussion to a national level. She is passionate about the intersection of housing and community as we age. Dr. Laverne Joseph is someone else who is passionate about senior housing, a fellow Leading Age member who runs the Retirement Housing Foundation in California, Dr. Joseph is tireless when it comes to serving older adults, particularly low-income seniors with an affordable housing need. Of his organization's 187 communities, 102 were financed through the HUD 202 program. He has worked for decades to expand and protect programs that provide funding for affordable senior housing. We recognize the next two inductees posthumously. Reverend Paul White was the president of Presby's Inspired Life in Pennsylvania. White retired from Presby Homes and Services, Presby's previous name, in 1992 after 31 years of inspiring and dedicated service. His insightful, dynamic vision was instrumental in providing new retirement options for seniors in the region. He helped to set the standards for responsible retirement community administration regionally and nationally. Dr. Richard Ice was president and CEO of the American Baptist Homes of the West, or ABHOW. When Ice accepted a position on the ABHOW Board of Directors in 1970, he began a career that perfectly suited his temperament and training. His business acumen enabled him to position ABHOW as a leading nonprofit provider of senior housing and health care, while his theological and philosophical skills made him an articulate champion of older adults and mission-driven enterprises. Each of these inductees has made incredible contributions to the field of aging and has set the bar very high for other providers. They share a unique passion for the rights of older adults and believe that everyone deserves to grow older with dignity and respect. On behalf of all of us at Leading Age, I congratulate you and your families for this remarkable honor and thank you for your service. I hope you have a most enjoyable evening.
I'm now going to introduce Karen Adams. Karen is the Vice President of Planning with GSI Research and Consulting, the firm that was launched in 1982 by our first honoree, Maria Dwight. Karen specializes in market research and database strategic and master planning. Over the years, GSI has successfully served more than 300 organizations throughout the country and in Costa Rica, India, and China. GSI has always believed in the power of asking our markets what they want, then listening and responding. As a result, Karen is a leader in identifying, verifying, and documenting emerging trends in the markets. She is a frequent presenter on emerging market trends and models of service delivery. She is also an alumni staff of Leading Age, then ASA. 2 years ago, GSI recognized that change and growth in our field calls for expanded skills and capabilities and merged into Transforming Age, the largest multi-facility provider in the state of Washington. Karen has been a core member of the team that has created a successful integration to expand services and assure GSI's future in continuing to serve nonprofit organizations. Today, Karen notes that I am proud to have worked with, learned from, and collaborated with Maria for more than 40 years, and I am excited about our continued and future efforts together. So please welcome Karen Adams.
So, Maria. So in this year where we've had a real focus on transforming the perceptions of aging, it is really an honor in itself to be here to honor Maria. She is not with us physically, which many of you have heard, but she is here with us in spirit because she is off fulfilling a dream she's had for many years, which is to visit Sri Lanka. She called me a few months ago and announced, "I want you to know you were right." I thought. I said to her, "Am I right about everything?" Because she was not specifying. After almost 40 years of working with her, after all, this was huge that she was calling me and telling me I was right. "Let's not push it," she said. "You were right about going to the gym," and she was now starting a regimen of working out with a trainer because she fully planned to do even the long multi-mile hikes in Sri Lanka. She did contact all of us through Facebook when she got to Sri Lanka and said, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm drinking red wine and eating dark chocolate. The reason is the hotel is favoring me with red wine because they forgot me at the airport. So Maria has always transformed age. She's transformed age in her belief and in her actions, and she continues to do that today. Maria was a legislative advocate when a lot of people still confused gerontology with genealogy and gynecology. She's been a stalwart about the fact that planning for aging needs should include the ideas, insights, desires, and concerns of elders themselves. She pushed the field and all of us forward in how we plan and what we plan. Maria did so and continues to do so brilliantly with an innate understanding of markets. She's done so with tenacity, with confidence, and with persistence. She's done so with irreverence toward this is how we do it, or we know what we're doing, or when they experience it, they'll like it. And her irreverence is often, she does that with irreverence, and her irreverence is what often wins the day. You can call it humor, disarming humor. Maria played a huge role in the development of a geriatric authority, which was a rehab facility in a time when people said you don't rehab older people, you don't provide rehab for older people. She built a successful consulting practice that carried her message to others, and in turn carried the messages of seniors back to providers. Maria is forward-thinking, amazing, kind, and oh so very generous. I resisted what seemed like an obvious, but in the end, Song from the Sound of Music kept coming back to me. How do you catch a cloud and pin it down? How do you keep a wave upon the sand? How do you hold a moonbeam in your hand? And if I could have them rewrite the song today, I would add one more. What are you going to do with this force of nature? So it's with a real pleasure beyond words to be able to be here for Maria to be inducted tonight. Thank you. I've known A.V. a really long time, and he has this thing so planned, and so he just said, no, you need to call Lily up. I said, but Al, you didn't tell me that. Lily Dwight. Lily is Maria's beautiful and equally innovative daughter who is here to receive the award for Maria, or to represent Maria.
Know what to do now that we've done this.
There you go. You need to present the water, and then she gets
okay.
yes.
I get to put my.
Wow, this was huge that you didn't tell me.
I think you know. Right?
Okay, so here we go. Here. Are you done?
Are we done? Excellent.
Okay, so Al, do I leave this up here now? I take it back.
You're good. All right, we're running out of time. Sorry, A.V. All right, so now I am actually reading what Maria wrote, okay? So channeling Maria here. Thank you, A.V., and all our friends who have gathered here for this amazing occasion. I wish I could be sharing this evening with you, but I am somewhere between Singapore and Sri Lanka on my last bucket list trip of my old age, long planned for and long dreamed of. I am so honored to be included within this field of outstanding and inspirational leaders in our field. These men have successfully led their faith-based organizations with dedication, creativity, and fervor. to make late life an important and meaningful experience for thousands and thousands of people, and they have inspired thousands and thousands more to follow in their path. It is an additional honor to be the first woman to be selected to join this august panel. In the late 70s, for Maria's That's for you, Maria, that bow. In the late 70s, early 80s, it was a very different climate from what it is today, right, AV and Red Hot Pants? Women in business, our business included, were rare, rather amusing, and tolerated. I will give you a brief vignette. Newly formed GSI was anxiously seeking clients to keep the dream afloat. I flew to Chicago for an interview, drove 2 hours west, and after car trouble, never rented from Rent-A-Wreck again, made it to the CEO's office. Hello, I am Maria Dwight, president of GSI. CEO, Mrs. Dwight, I assume. Me, yes. CEO, do you have children? Me, yes. CEO, what do you do with them when you travel? Me, I chain them to the radiator. Good day. That was Maria. That was the day I made up the first rule for GSI. Never cry till you get to the parking lot. Now I rejoice to see increasing numbers of young women in the positions of responsibility and leadership. I applaud the initiatives that Leading Age has implemented and the inclusion of a wider variety of participants in our mission, including LGBTQ, people of color, young people, iconoclasts, techies, dreamers, and challengers to the status quo. We still have a long, long way to go to address the future. As demographics overwhelm us, both domestically and internationally, we must continue to fight back against the negative stereotypes of aging and societal ageism. We must embrace and welcome the multiculturalism that is our reality. We must include the very poor, and the isolated in our mission. Our work has barely just begun. And I wish that I were 50 years younger only to participate in this exciting future. I am delighted to have made it this far in life's journey, and let me tell you, it's been quite an amazing trip. I want to also thank my dear family who has cheered me on and bucked me up, and to thank the wonderful people who have made up GSI over the years. We were a team and a family. It was a pleasure to work with such dedicated and energetic folk. And of course, I want to thank our many clients who entrusted us with guiding their future and respected our integrity. They taught me so much, and my appreciation is boundless. Now, I have entrusted Lily, c'est moi, to present this beloved treasure to AV. It represents a long-time friendship and a shared sentiment. I have enjoyed it for several decades and will dearly miss it. Now, you have to open it. She made me... It does. All right. That has been Maria's nightgown for years, AV. And Maria says, thank you all.
Kay Callender will be introducing our second honoree, Dr. Richard Ice. She began her career as a national and international registered nurse, working and teaching on every continent. Her career in long-term care began as the director of nursing at Plymouth Village, one of ABHO's CCRCs. Advancing to assistant administrator and then executive director prepared her for work in the corporate office. 5 years as Chief Operations Manager for all CCRCs was followed by her role as Senior Vice President with a focus on strategic planning, governance, communications, and accreditation. When obtaining her master's degree in business administration, she developed the Grove Project to serve residents within CCRCs with mid-stage dementia. The model was replicated in all the ABHO CCRCs and has been showcased both nationally and internationally. After 30 years of service to ABHOW, Kay retired in June 2015. Dr. Ice was not only a mentor to Kay, but an inspiration. He taught her that you could live a life of faith and service in a professional world. He modeled that life to all who knew him. So, Kay? And now you know what to do from here.
That was so handy. And I know the 11-minute rule, so thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity this evening to introduce you to a real superhero. Now, we have good news and we have bad news. Now, the bad news is that Lorinda, the daughter of Dr. Ice, is a little reluctant for public speaking. So she gave me the good news, the extra couple of minutes, so I can tell you the story of a superhero that takes that extra time. So thank you. Anyone in the room who ever met Dr. Ice, as he began to speak, he would stand up and he would reach into his pocket and he would pull out a joke or a quote or something. It was a full library. To honor this tradition tonight, I'm going to sprinkle some of the favorite quotes throughout my comments. Now, for those of you who have known me over the years, you know there's nothing I like better than a good story. So tonight I want to tell you a great story about a man who is a leader, a mentor, a visionary, a volunteer, a champion for everyone, a good friend, and a man who loved his family. Born September 25th, 1930, Richard was active in the local American Baptist Church as well as the Boy Scouts, where he achieved the highest honor of being an Eagle Scout. After college, he met and married your mother, Lucille Daniels, in 1955, and began a professional career in banking. Following graduation from seminary, he pastored a church for a while and then combined both his love for ministry and business, which is not always a combination you see. He loved that, and he served in several positions for the American Baptist Churches, USA. The young couple had 3 daughters, and all 3 of those girls are here tonight. I'm hearing that the girls are having a great deal of fun in New Orleans with each other, and part of the story is they left their husbands and all of the kids back home. They're smart girls. Speaking of children, Dr. Ice has 9 grandchildren and a new great-grandbaby on the way. Dr. Ice believed that each of us needed to be a volunteer. While serving with the Boy Scouts of America, he acted as the chaplain in 2 different national jamborees. He was the trustee on several boards and denominational organizations. His dedication to the American Baptist denomination was apparent as he volunteered in all of the major institutions, and he served as the vice president of the 1.6 million members of the American Baptist Churches, USA. He also served and chaired the American Baptist Seminary of the West for decades. Dr. Ice was simply known as Mr. American Baptist. The first quote, "The meaning of life is to give life a meaning." The meaning of life is to give life a meaning, and Dr. Ice did just that. Most of you know him through his leadership role with ABHOW. He joined the ABHOW Board of Directors in 1970 and became their 2nd president in 1972. This was a position that fit his love for ministry and business perfectly. He led extensive expansion campaigns, and he was an enthusiastic fundraiser, raising over $40 million for the ABHOW Foundation to support residents who ran out of funds. Dr. Ice believed that there was a mission, that he had a mission, and ABHOW had a mission for low-income seniors to have the reality of housing. And his philosophy and his financial skills came together perfectly and brought ABHOW into the field of affordable housing. You can be proud of your dad. Mr. David B. Ferguson followed Dr. Ice as the president of ABHOW in 1995. Dave is not able to be here with us tonight, but he sends these comments. He says, "To follow in Dick's footsteps He was the only person who called him Dick. We all referred to him as Dr. Ice. To follow in Dick's footsteps as president and CEO of ABHOW and benefit from his commitment to our state and national associations and the various initiatives that he championed over the years was indeed a special privilege. Dr. Ice retired as the president emeritus of ABHOW, a role he loved until he passed away. Dr. Ice believed that you never became poor by being generous. You never became poor by being generous. He played a key role in the development of the senior housing profession by connecting ABHOW with similar organizations. He regularly shared his expertise at regional, state, and national associations and engaged in the senior housing and healthcare long-term care financing roles. He was instrumental in the establishment of the Continuing Care Accreditation Commission, where he served as an original commissioner. Second quote, by Emily Dickinson, who says, "I dwell in possibilities." And Dr. Ice did dwell in possibilities. He traveled extensively throughout the world, testifying before state and federal legislative committees. Recognition surrounded this man. He received 2 honorary doctorate degrees, many college and denominational awards, as well as the highest award from both Leading Age and Leading Age California, the Award of Honor. In conclusion, Dr. Ice's professional legacy is profound. His amazing vision, dedication, and generosity are evident to all. And during his tenure, his beloved ABHOW grew from 4 to 11 CCRCs, and he added 7 affordable housing communities. You've heard what he's given to our state and national organizations, as well as the generosity to the American Baptist institutions. So he really was a superhero. Finally, the true legacy that Dr. Ice leaves is the love of his family. He spoke of you girls all the time. His daughters are here tonight to accept the award on behalf of their father. But allow me just one last quote. For those of us who heard him at the end of his life at an ABHOW annual meeting, we remember the elegance and the simplicity as he quoted Viktor Frankl. Dr. Ice challenged each of us in the room that night, and I would say he would challenge each of you in the room tonight to live a life drenched in meaning. That's exactly what Dr. Ice did. He lived a life drenched in meaning. So now, would you 3 ladies please join me, Lorinda Bradley, Julianne Edmondson, and Diana Van Dyke, to accept this, you can wipe the tears, accept this honor on behalf of your beloved father, Dr. Richard Ice. You girls hold this. It's yours.
Raymond East will be introducing our 3rd honoree, Dr. Laverne Joseph. Ray has served on the board of the Retirement Housing Foundation since 1996. For the last 4 years, he has chaired the board. Previously, he spent 36 years working for NBC News in Washington, D.C. as a graphic designer and art director. He retired in 1999 after receiving an Emmy for art direction. He has received numerous other awards and recognition for his photography. Ronald Reagan, Barbara Bush, Willard Scott, and Katie Couric are among the favorite folks he has photographed. Ray has also one of the courtroom artists who originally covered the Watergate trials. He considers his work with the Retirement Housing Foundation to be the most rewarding and challenging of his career. He is honored to present this award to Dr. Laverne Joseph, President and CEO of the Retirement Housing Foundation.
My wife told me to button my coat when I got up here. It is a great honor to be here to represent the RHF board with Laverne. And I first met him, as she mentioned, in 1995 in Washington, D.C., when I was asked to consider a seat on the RHF board. After the initial meeting to learn about RHF, I had no idea what it was about. We were invited to California to meet with the entire board. Afterwards, we were interviewed and felt it was a good fit for us and perhaps them. I was offered a seat on that board. Having no experience in senior housing, there was a steep learning curve. And through the tutoring of Laverne and fellow board members, I began learning what this mission was all about. And that even continues today. I have said often that in order for a board to function well, it must operate independent of any outside influence that would come from the CEO or the staff. Laverne, through the years, has respected this and allowed the board to govern itself. I believe the effectiveness of our board has been because of our association and relationship with Dr. Joseph and his willingness to serve the board in any way that we request. Because of his dedication, along with the board and staff, there is just some of the reason that RHF has been so successful. Dr. Joseph has been an advocate and a spokesperson on the national stage for those who are in need of safe and secure housing. And he's often invited to testify before Congress on issues that are dealing with housing, aging, and care. Laverne is one of the most honorable persons I have ever known. So after a 22-year relationship with Dr. Laverne Joseph, it is my honor to present him with this award. And I will yield the remaining part of my 11 minutes to Laverne. We know about the photo op, don't we?
Yes, we do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
More.
One more.
Over here. Thank you. Well, thank you. It was quite a surprise when I heard about this award, when AV called me. And I keep doing this because I enjoy it so much. I thank you for this honor. I thank Joanne Handy and Jim Emerson for nominations and others who I understand also put my name in the pool. A.B. told me that I had about 6 or 8 minutes to speak, and when we met at the Ziegler Conference earlier this month, I asked him if he did not know that clergy spoke in 20-minute increments. I do believe in providence, and I believe that if you follow the signs and promptings of the Almighty, you wind up where you're supposed to be. As mentioned in the program, I thought my life journey would be in music. But for over 50 years, it has been with the United Church of Christ in ministry both in the local parish and in service with older adults and limited income persons. I've never sought a position, but in retrospect, I found that every position that I had prepared me for the next one. And that's why I believe in providence. Maybe I never had a chance. A story that most people do not know occurred after my mother's death in 1970. When my dad told me that my mother was pregnant, one of her relatives visited with us. He was a traveling evangelist ordained in the evangelical church. He stayed at our home, and when he was leaving, he placed his hand on her tummy and prayed that the son who would be born would grow up to be a minister. When I asked my dad, why didn't you ever tell me that? He said, we never wanted to influence you in that way. But by example and by the good deeds that they did, they were definitely an influence. Once in a while, Larry Minix and I connect. And recently, he said he was looking forward to celebrating my 100th birthday when I will be the longest-serving CEO in Leading Age's history. Obviously, I could retire, but as I tell friends, I certainly don't need to retire to travel. But what keeps me going is the mission and the stories that our residents tell me about the difference that the mission, not me, but the mission makes in the lives of almost 22,000 people today. No one does this alone. I have the support of my wife, Ginger, our family, the RHF Board and Advisory Commission, many of whom are here tonight, 2,800 team members, some of whom are here. Together, we, like all of you, make a positive difference for those whom we serve. So thanks to A.V. Powell and his team, to all of you, to our board and our RHF family for joining together in this great mission to change lives for the better, one at a time. And to quote Tiny Tim, God bless us everyone as we continue this important work.
Those lights are very bright. I just want to point out as I took a microphone in the eye. Judy Bavaria, President and CEO of Presby's Inspired Life, will be introducing the final honoree of the class of 2017, Reverend Dr. Paul White. Judy is the first female and the first non-Presbyterian CEO of Presby's Inspired Life. I didn't know that was funny. Her leadership has been marked by significant strides in meeting the critical need for affordable housing for economically disadvantaged seniors. The Affordable Housing Ministry has grown from 12 communities in 1999 to 34 today in both sponsored and managed sites. Judy currently serves on the board of the University of Scranton and the Philadelphia Corporation on Aging. She served as chair of Catholic Senior Housing and Healthcare Services for 12 years. Judy has been active throughout her career at both the national and state level of Leading Age, having served as co-chair of ASA and on the nominating committee, as well as on the Leading Age PA, then PANFA Board of Directors. She was selected from among her statewide peers as the 2007 PANFA Leader of the Year. Perhaps our most important credential this evening, however, is that, according to Judy, Paul White liked her best.
I'm sure Bob and Scott don't agree with that. Where's Bob and Scott? Where are they? Boy, there's a light. I don't see it. Oh, yeah. I had to put that in, right? Well, I say greetings to all. I have to admit, I did not have knowledge of this group before. And AV called, and he introduced himself like I wouldn't know who he was, you know. And a very humble man, and I told his daughter that tonight. He's a very humble man. So he told me about the Hall of Fame and the advisory board, and I was excited that Paul was going to be honored, and that Scott and Bob nominated him. And so I thanked them for doing that. And so I would say, I don't have much to say today, but maybe 11 minutes, AV, I don't know. But what I will say is that Paul was the greatest man that I've ever known, and I met him, and I'll read this. I'm just saying a few words, just a few minutes, AV, really. But I do encourage everyone to read what's in the booklet, because I did write 3 pages about the life of Paul with Presby. And I also encourage you to read the letters that both Bob and Scott wrote about their knowledge of Paul and how they worked with him. So I met Paul White back in 1992. Now, I was working for the Lutherans then. This Catholic girl gets around to all the religions. Now, some of you know I wasn't, with Presby then. I was with Presby in 1999, but in 1992, at Leading Age Conference, it was at there's Larry, it's so nice to see him. Ironically, the CEO from the Lutherans, where I worked, introduced me to the Reverend Paul White. And this is what he said about Paul White. Judy, I want to introduce you to a leader in the industry, a man who made everything happen, both at the state level and at the national level, and it's someone you should know. So I guess Paul was in the same generation of many of the people who are honored before him tonight, the 3 people that were honored. Paul was very active at the state and national level. He was one of the 50 leaders who started the national organization, Leading Age as we know it today. Through the National Association, his contributions include helping to establish the Continuing Care Accreditation Commission, and he also was very instrumental in starting Leading Age PA and was chair of the board of Leading Age PA during the early 70s. Little did I know back in 1992 when I met him that 7 years later, I would meet Paul again at Presby, because he was very active at Presby even after he retired. He was on many committees, and he shared much of his knowledge with us. Up until that time he passed, he emailed me on a regular basis, and I've saved all his emails knowing that he was such a great man, and he had so much history about Presby's inspired life, because he was the first president and CEO, and he served 32 years of our 62-year history. And I'm the second longest serving, Bob, of 13 years as CEO, but we've had 4 CEOs in the 62-year history. Paul's memory was phenomenal. My last memory of Paul was a 2-page, single-space typed email he sent to me just a few days before he died. It was filled with history that, again, I could never remember all what he was telling me. His memory was phenomenal. His emails always contain history of Presby and what he remembered. I always tell my new staff at all the new orientations every month that Paul White was the visionary for our ministry. Our ministry serves all economic levels of seniors. So he started affordable housing for us, and he started the continuing care retirement communities as we know them today as life care communities. And so he started the mission for us. It's grown, but we've done everything that Paul would be happy about, and he loved coming back to Presby. So we may have grown, but we continue to serve all economic levels. At his retirement, I found this quote. I wasn't around when he retired. Paul said, "At first, we could never have dreamed how this organization has grown. It was mission-driven to help people stay independent and had wonderful board and staff to help make it happen. Now we are able to serve people of all socioeconomic backgrounds and solve their retirement problems. This work has been immensely rewarding." The Reverend Paul A. White. Interesting about Paul is he first went to the University of Pennsylvania and is a graduate in accounting, undergraduate in accounting. He was an ordained Presbyterian minister, but I'm not sure if he leaned towards accounting a lot too. And so we have great information with us. His family is here tonight. Both one of his grandchildren, Jennifer, and his daughter, and his son and his wife, Diana, are with us. But I'm going to ask if Dale would come up. His daughter's name is Ruth. If Dale would come up and accept the award. I was under my time limit, so he could take my time.
Well, I'm a musician, so I do a lot more speaking with my horn. But my father certainly was a great man. He was a wonderful father, a great husband. I guess I'll put those on top. But one thing he taught me was dedication to whatever I did, because it was unspoken in our house how dedicated, I don't know how to say this, we were all part of the organization. He made us all feel a part of the organization, of what he was doing, and I think that really stuck with me and our family. We knew that was really his life, and we enjoyed playing off the homes at the time, the Philadelphia Presbyterian homes, and we just somehow we all just felt like we were part of that, even though we were family as well, if that makes sense to you. And I think many of you that are dedicated like he was knows what that's all about, where you're all part of the same, whatever PPH did, that's what yes, it must be the way it is. So we just loved him very much, and thank you so much. This is wonderful that you thought of him tonight. Thank you.
Joanne Handy will be introducing our luminary speaker this evening. Joanne Handy is the immediate past president of Leading Age California. Until 2009, she was the CEO of the VNA of Boston, the nation's oldest and one of the largest home care companies on the East Coast. She is the former president of the Goldman Institute of Aging, an affiliate of UC San Francisco. She has served on the board of directors of ARP, the American Society on Aging, the National Association of Home Care, and the California Association of Health Services at Home. She currently chairs the Trinity Health System Continuing Care Board, one of the nation's largest providers of post-acute home care and elder care services. Joanne also serves on California's Alzheimer's State Plan Task Force, the California Olmstead Commission, and the Aging 2.0 Alliance. She was a Kellogg International Leadership Fellow and is a speaker and author of several publications spanning the areas of geriatrics, home care, management, and marketing. Joanne has known Larry for 20 years. They met serving on a national board together and have been making mischief together ever since.
Yes, we've been making mischief together. It's true. I've known Larry since he was, I met him when he was CEO of Wesley Woods in Atlanta. And Larry, the first time that I had the chance to introduce you at a national conference was right here in New Orleans at this hotel. Now, I made the mistake of describing to the audience, he was the keynote speaker, that my first impression of Larry was as a backslapping, good old Southern boy. And then I went on to say that as I came to understand his virtues, I changed my impression of him. Well, that just managed to insult 50% of the audience, which is primarily a Southern audience. So I really learned my lesson on that one, Larry. Early on in his tenure as CEO of Leading Age, McKnight's ran a headline about him that said, "He was born to lead ASA," then ASA. Rick Scott, who is the CEO right now of Providence Healthcare Services out of Chicago, remarked in that same article, "You know, it never looks like work to him. It seems that he just woke up and decided to help out some of his friends that day." He was and is a man of mission. As such, he has always been an inspiration to me and to, I'm sure, many people in this room. As CEO of Leading Age, he elevated both the visibility and impact of the organization to new heights, a mantle that Katie Sloan has certainly taken and carried on with. Larry is our humor laureate, not poet laureate, but humor laureate of the field, a man known for his great humor and his very funny stories, utilized usually to make a salient point. Who hasn't heard his famous Cousin Bubba stories and other picturesque relative descriptions? There's been many a dinner where I literally spit out my wine because I was laughing so hard, and Larry was laughing even harder with tears coming down his face. I understand he is now writing a book of stories from the field, so none of you are safe. Larry combines a deep spiritual core with bold action. He is a true legacy leader in senior living and services. Who better to offer reflections on tonight's recognitions than Dr. Larry Minix? Larry.
Thank you very much. I don't know why Joanne thought I was some kind of country bumpkin. I just remember saying to her, "Do you see some turnip truck I fell off the back of?" I said that to Karen when she called. We retained Maria to help us with a very difficult marketing challenge in Atlanta, and Karen, she's got this California, thing going, and she's really smart, and she sounds like she's from California, and she called me up in behalf of Maria one day, and she was trying to tell me all about marketing and the studies of this and that, and the coordinates and the cohorts and all that, and she was talking as fast as A.V. Powell. I tell you what, every conversation I've had with A.V., I record it, and then I play it back on 33 1/3 later. Make sure I understood it. So Karen calls, and I said, "Karen," I can get real Southern when I have to be. I said, "Karen, look out your window, honey." And there was a silence from the West Coast. And she says, what do you mean? Do you see a turnip truck I fell off the back of? More silence. And Karen, she didn't try to teach me anything after that. Not that I didn't need to learn it, but she just didn't try to teach me. The honorees tonight, it's hard to resist a roast kind of approach, except, thank God, I didn't know Paul that well. I remember him as a young person coming through the field, and he was a good friend, colleague of my mentor, the late Scott Houston, and I just remember Paul being among the icons. Maria, there weren't many women in our field at all, and Maria was, I think at the time, the only woman on the then AHA House of Delegates, and she got kicked off by a rigid chair because she wore hot pants to a meeting. Now, I would suggest you auction those off, because it'll bring money like the Marilyn Monroe dress where she sang "Happy Birthday" to President Kennedy. But she and I have laughed about that any number of times. But she broke the gender barrier, and she broke the reverence barrier, and that was even more important at the time, and created for many years. She was the marketing expert in our field, like AV is the expert. What you do is actuary. That's a Presbyterian thing, I think, and I'm not surprised Paul was a preacher and an accountant. That's so Presbyterian, Judy. You know, I bet you guys have got $1.25 of every dollar you've ever earned buried in jars behind all of your communities. But and I know Bill Young he's every bit that Presbyterian. I've been around him a long time. And Laverne's not any better. I mean, you know, Laverne, we could get into a roasting kind of thing with Laverne, but I just won't do it tonight, because I can't roast everybody equally. But when you've been in this field as long as I have, the only exercise I get is to get invited to these things when you stand up for ovations and sit down, and stand up for ovations and sit down. Dick Ice, Dick is, I remember I was part of a professional development group with Dick. And there's a wisdom about him, and he not only carried these stories, but he carried jokes. And I could tell you, Henny Youngman didn't have a thing on Dick Ice. He'd have the corniest jokes he'd pull out and tell in front of our group, and I have a picture of him somewhere in a gold turban reflecting his wisdom. And the girls, if I can call you the girls, Dick's daughters, have a picture of that, or have the turban somewhere, and that ought to be framed, and there needs to be an oil painting of that somewhere in one of the ABHOW facilities. By the way, ABHOW is the only member among Leading Age that's had 3 Award of Honor winners: Dick, then David Ferguson, and Kay Callender. I had to direct the nominations committee to pick somebody else. We can't just keep. But leadership is where leadership is, and all of you deserved it. But what a legacy, and I'm going to get into that in just a minute, of leadership in our field that started with Dick and was perpetuated by David and you, Kay. I've had a lot of fun making fun of many of you. And you give as good as you get. I read a brain scientist who said the shortest distance between two people is laughter. And if we can't, one of the chapters in my book, if it ever gets published, is whether to laugh or to cry. Because we've all experienced those situations with the people we work with, whether you don't know which one to do, but if you don't laugh, you may cry an awful long time. So I appreciate the camaraderie that we've created. By the way, Ray East, Laverne's board chair, there was a debate. Most people don't know this. He, big wig with NBC. Any of you watch Morning Joe? Well, it was going to be Morning Ray. And Ray lost out. And Ray, I'm sorry about that, because it would have been a great show, and I could see you there with Mika and the gang, every morning. But I'm disappointed. I won't go there. But last time that this award was bestowed. Jim Emerson, who follows me tonight, detailed that the honorees involved, very perceptive, had 3 characteristics in common. One was purpose. They had a purposeful life. That's a big theme at the meeting here today. Secondly, they were passionate about that purpose and the missions that they led. And third, they knew how to persevere over time and difficult circumstances. Indeed, perseverance is especially important if the other characteristics of these leaders now that we honor tonight. The Bible says that perseverance produces character. Character produces hope, and hope never disappoints us. And let me emphasize, never. Yes, the 4 people we honor and remember tonight embody these characteristics. If those characteristics are in their DNA, as I believe they are, if that metaphor fits, that's the vertical dimension of a leader. So let's reflect tonight on the horizontal dimensions of leadership. And we might call that legacy. Legacy. What is legacy? You hear people talk about it casually. I kind of believe it's one of these things, if you go into a restaurant and you don't see the prices, you have to ask what things cost, you probably can't afford it. People that talk about their legacy, legacy is bestowed upon you. It's not something that you announce yourself, unless it's a will for the children or a bequest. Legacy is something people say he or she has left a legacy. What is legacy? My late mother, who was an early volunteer at Wesley Woods, a retirement senior community that I was privileged to be associated with for 24 years. She was an early volunteer, and she moved in after my daddy died, and she quickly became the opposition party to the administration. I still hear about that. But she had a way of, from time to time, sending me cartoons or clippings or articles because she perceived I needed to hear it or see that message. And so she sent me a clipping dated July 1947, small, 1.5 by 1.5. It was dated July 47, 2 months after I was born. But she sent it to me at a tense phase of my career at Wesley Woods. And she perceived that I was having trouble with my perspective on life at the time. And here's the quote. It is by a woman by the name of Bessie Anderson Stanley. Quote, "To laugh often and much, to win respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a better place than we found it, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life breathed easier because you lived. This is to have succeeded." And I needed to hear it. What a great definition of basic legacy. Let's assume legacy builds on itself like physical matter, if we can use the world of physics. I'm obviously one of those people that you would say, gosh, I bet he knows a lot about physics. But let's assume that we know that the atom is the basic unit of matter. And let's assume that that definition of success is the basic unit of legacy. Atoms make up molecules, which collectively, in myriad ways, create the entire matter substance of the universe. And matter is neither created nor destroyed. It evolves, changes, it reforms itself. It creates powerful substances that define and redefine our lives and those of countless future generations just on this small, tiny planet on which we live. Let's posit that the Stanley quote is the basic building block of legacy. It begins with people who laugh, who earn respect and pay it, who look for the best in others, who leave the world a better place, who redeem a social condition of some kind, and even help one person breathe easier. Yes, that's the basic unit of legacy in our field. Many individuals among us, and in our churches and synagogues and neighborhoods, fulfill that definition of success. We know a lot of people that do that every day that never wind up receiving awards. They often go unrecognized. A great sculptor, perhaps Michelangelo, but I'm not sure, was asked by an admirer why the backside of his statues were just as smooth and polished as the more visible parts of his statues. Because, the admirer said, no one ever sees the backside. Michelangelo, or the sculptor, replied, yes, but God sees the backside. So many wonderful people commit acts of kindness every day that offers or fulfills that criteria of personal success that no one will ever see. The night shift staff in every dementia unit in our organizations are the backside of the statue people. Nobody knows, nobody sees, but they know, many of them, that God sees. So that is the basic, but they don't get awards. Many wonderful people then aggregate acts of kindness into programs and services. They create budgets and buildings and processes, and they have outcomes. They're managers and leaders. And they are successful for 5 years or 10 years, maybe even a generation, but collectively, they make up complex molecules that help many people in a community breathe easier. This is very visible work. These wonderful people receive awards and certificates. They have plaques on their wall. They enjoy the admiration of many in their communities. And their achievements are often remembered in their eulogies. Lives well lived for these people. Leading Age's membership is an aggregate, vibrant community of such achievers that make a contribution for an extended period of time. But when those programs end, the budgets run out, things change. When they die, their plaques are in the attics of their kids, who try to determine what to do with them. They don't want to throw them away, and yet they don't know how to hang them on the wall anymore, and many people have forgotten their names. But for a period of time, they were aggregate achievers. Through their programs and buildings, they have a period of time, their moment in the sun, that we all remember as we've rubbed elbows with them. We shouldn't be melancholy about this. There's a tendency to be, because the inevitability of their time having come and gone is clearly there. They achieve much. We copy them, we emulate them, but there's a limit. It's not a legacy. Then there are those who create success through lasting achievements. Various dictionaries define legacy as accumulated results of past events handed down from generation to generation. Glenn Lopsis, a contributing editor to Forbes magazine, says legacy represents, quote, your body of work at each stage of your career as you establish fundamental principle building blocks and accumulate the required wisdom to contribute to growth, innovation, and opportunity. Accumulated building blocks, wisdom. Now we're beginning to approach what the very few of us accomplish, like the 4 people here and the 3 represented and the people like the Award of Honor winners. They're few among many. Individuals help individuals breathe easier. Public servants help many people in communities breathe easier. Legends who leave a legacy create principles, building blocks through what's called perseverance, which creates new ways of doing things, new laws, new regulations to codify the new ways of doing things. And it reinforces the entrepreneurial spirit to some degree embedded in all of our DNA if we can find it. Lopsis goes on to assert, legacy grows with each new experience, with each untested idea and bold ideal that you're courageous enough to deploy. And each time you inspire others to see something through to fruition. Not many of us reach that category of legacy, but certainly these 4 people have. As I reflect on these 4 people and others who have been similarly recognized by peers, Maria, Laverne, Paul, and Dick persevered. And they have persevered, 2 of them, even after death. Wow. They have developed character, and they have given our entire society hope that care and services could be better, could be available to everybody on an affordable basis, could be codified in society's standards for everyone to enjoy for future generations. And they have inspired all of us, and countless others to accomplish goals far beyond what we might have imagined we could do and have achieved expected outcomes far beyond what we thought we could achieve ourselves. So we honor them. It is our duty to do so. It is our responsibility to lift up these names and what they have not just achieved, less important than what they have inspired in the way of a new era of standards and program. Yes, and to distinguish them as a rare breed among us, as AV is doing tonight, and thank you again for that. May their wisdom and their inspiration endure as it already has, far beyond the services they or we might implement over a shorter time frame. They have not only concrete achievements, but more importantly, they have achieved transformational ideas for many, many future generations, not just one soul, to breathe easier. And let us remember that we laughed with them as we have done tonight. As Ms. Stanton said, we have laughed often. We've loved that because that laughter that they promulgated among us is energizing. And most importantly, these 4 people and the very few like them give us hope. This is why we stay in this field, because somebody inspired us to hope beyond what we could see in the worst as well as the best of times. They give us hope, and a rare few among them have inspired us through their collective wisdom, which will endure. Perseverance produces character, character hope, and hope in the embodiment of these people never disappoints us. And Laverne, as the one person here tonight that symbolizes all that, we send the lightning rod of gratitude to 2 deceased and to Maria, who's in Sri Lanka. Thank you for giving us hope, and thank you, AV, for creating this occasion to perpetuate that legacy, because very few people will achieve it, and God bless those who help us all move forward with it. Thank you.
It's certainly a pleasure to thank Larry for bringing things together tonight and respecting the legacy that all that we enjoy from those honored tonight. One more story about Laverne Joseph, and this puts me into perspective. Laverne Joseph and I met in graduate school a long time ago, and we've known each other since that time. So Laverne, I thank you for decades and decades of friendship and service. We're so pleased that all of you are here tonight to honor, show respect, to salute, to show tribute to these Award of Honor winners. And each of you who spoke, Kay, thank you so much for Dick Ice. To know Dick Ice personally and as a friend and have him in our home years ago, and to enjoy him and his little black book. I still have some stories from that little black book, I really do. And Maria and Paul, we thank all of you. My first leading age was in the mid-'70s in San Diego, California, where we'll be meeting 2 years from now. At that meeting, we had a record attendance somewhere between 350 and 400 people. We couldn't really tell because the only way we could have the meeting there was to run it back to back, what at one time was called the Protestant Association. So you couldn't tell who left or who came back. But these 4 people were more than likely there. I did not know them at the time, but I knew that people in that room were leaders. And those leaders then became our mentors. And those mentors then became our friends. So we thank all of you tonight. Thank those of you who came. AV, you and your staff have been recognized, but I recognize you again. It takes a lot of work to make this happen. It doesn't just pull together. And we thank you so very much. Our next event like this will be in San Diego, and probably be on a Sunday night, and probably be just like this, and we'll be honoring some very, very special people. We look forward to seeing you then. We invite you to stay. We have desserts that are going to be outside that door, or this door over here. And stay and visit and chat and celebrate the legacy of these 4 people. Thank you.